Alright, Cancer. Usually I pick a deck during the reading, but today it's picked itself, and we're not going to talk about that because I'm a little wicked, but we're going to use it. And this is the Phantasmagoria, the Tarot of Vampires. That is the one that we're going to be using, which is more of a shadow side deck. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and start shuffling, and then as the cards are ready, they will kind of pop out for me or like flip over. You'll start to notice what it looks like when that happens. And we're just going to get straight into your reading. I hope retrograde's been treating y'all nice. I've been hearing a lot of... Ooh. Those two flipped over. I'm hearing a lot of stories about retrograde stuff for people, and it's been lots of sage, lavender, salt baths. Take care of you. We'll start off by saying that. We've already got a lot of new beginnings on the board. That's Dobby. He's I don't think I've ever drawn this card before. That's my cat. I don't think I've ever drawn this card before. The Eight of Skulls. It's beautiful. It kind of reminds me of the Magician. But I'm excited to talk about it. I've got a couple of reversals here. I don't know, I'm not feeling reversals in this one. I don't always read reversals. But even though I don't really typically always read reversals, I do clarify. I'm not going to take these two because I've only got one spot left, and I do clarify. So otherwise this reading can get really long. So what I'll do is I have 5 cards on top, 5 on the bottom, but I read it across like that, like you would a book. And if there's anything that doesn't come out clearly, I will clarify those. But also if it's not clear within, like, you know, after I clarify it, then I usually leave it alone, because I think that things will come out to us and be clear to us when it is time for us to know, or when we actually have something that is actionable from that. Alright, so we've got our 10 cards. I'll go ahead and start the reading, and I have set the deck aside as well so that I can clarify anything that we may have questions about. We're starting off with the Ace of Scepters. Scepters in this case are wands or fire. We have the Nine of Knives, which is air. The Lord of Knives, also an air. The Queen of Scepters, which is fire again. And the Ace of Knives, and that is the top row. Then for the bottom row, we have the Eight of Skulls, the Seven of Grails, which is cups or water, the Four of Skulls, which is again water. We have the Death card, and the Prince of Scepters. So this is really interesting because it looks like here you're starting a new cycle as far as your way of thinking. There's new growth there, new life, but it is in the, I'm sorry, not way of thinking. Well, I mean, it could also be in the way of thinking, but it is in fire, so it's a passionate pursuit. There's something new in your life that you are deeply interested in and that inspires you. So that's very... Dobby's got the zoomies. He's had them all night. I think it's because of the moon. He gets... I don't know if you can hear that. It sounded like he broke something. I'm sure it's fine. The Nine of Knives. So that's in an air energy, but this is also nearing the completion of a cycle. So you can see the moon is rising behind her, and she's also holding a knife and kind of licking blood off of her fingers. She's not quite licking the blood off her fingers, but she's like thinking about it. She's definitely thinking about it. I feel like you've been in a situation. Also, there's a moth here. I looked up what moths were the other day as a spirit guide, and it was really interesting, so I definitely would recommend looking that up again. She's also got like some really beautiful tattoos on her back. She's kind of, it's weird because she's air, which is very thoughtful, but at the same time she's like not afraid of a fight. And I feel like you've been in that space, but you've got this new thing that you're starting with the passionate pursuit, and then you've been fighting this situation, and then there's the Lord of Knives. So you've been doing it with like kind of, I wouldn't even say that it's been aggressively, but for a water sign, you've been really in your head. And you've been just like thinking about this and kind of charging through without I don't know, just really just charging in there. Like you're not passionate about it, you're not emotional about it. It's not giving you a lot of money. You're just mentally, you feel like this is the path that you need to go on. You're just, this is what I have to do, and so you're doing it. But it's not, it's like it's a thankless thing. So this here where you started, that's a really different way of approaching things, because you've been in this energy of like, this is what I have to do, guess it's time to go do the thing. So why are you doing that, Cancer? I'm curious, because you're more of a, there's a lot of heart to you. And I say that as an air sign, where like, I'm like, guess this is the only way to succeed. Logically, this makes sense. I'm gonna go do this, even if I'm suffering. Like, you don't have to do that. That's from an air sign telling you you don't have to do that. Then we have the Queen of Scepters, and she's laying up here on a table. You can see there's a panther there, like, raking his claws across the table, and she's just unbothered. And it's like getting back to your passion. So it's like there's a lot that has happened. You're in the feminine energy here too. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, you have masculine and feminine energy, but it's like you started out here. So you've been doing this for a little while, it looks like. And you've been slugging through. So it's like you're running parallel paths. So you've got this thing in the background that you're kind of, you're working on it, but not with everything. And then you're slugging through. Oh, it should be this way. Yeah, you're slugging through this. When you get free time, then you're back here. And it's like you're making progress in your passion pursuit, but most of your time is being eaten up by this thing that you have to do. And then it's also, you've got, at the end of that, you've got this new way of thinking, the Ace of Knives. So I feel like maybe there's opportunity here where you have a new way of thinking that's coming into play, and you can really take advantage of that and go on that journey and see that this other pattern that you've been doing of like, I really love this, but maybe it's not what I should be doing. What I should be doing is this thing that I don't love doing, which isn't, that's a belief that it seems like you're holding. There's an opportunity to change your way of thinking. With the Eight of Skulls, and like I said before, this is very similar to the Magician card. He's holding up a skull there. It's got some etchings on it. He's manifesting something right there in his hand. He's like playing with energy, and there's an hourglass there on the table, and he's got a book, and he's got a wine, which is kind of like ritual. What is your ritual? How are you spending your energy? Think about that. So maybe that's part of the new way of thinking, is looking at the ways that you're spending your energy, which is really cool, because we just saw this pattern of how you've been spending your energy, and now you have a new way of thinking, which is actually to examine that way of life. And here we've got the Seven of Cups, where it's like Medusa's milking snakes for blood. Like she's getting it right here. So it's again in the feminine energy, and this is, at this point in time, it's bringing heart into it and emotions. But again, this is a little bit, it's obviously not peaceful. It's like, I can't even think of the word for it. I'm going to clarify this one, because it's just, with everything that we got through, like examining the way that you're thinking, then to go into this, I'm not seeing how it relates to the story, but it's like she is a snake charmer. So I'm almost thinking like the snake oil salesman, something like that. Like, deception. Do you believe in what it is that you're doing, or are you just looking at, this is a way of like, this is another way that I can do what I feel like I should be doing? I'm cold. I don't know why I'm so cold all of a sudden. Because that's really what's coming through, is like a snake oil salesman, and the deception here. The next card that we have is the Four of Skulls, which is Pentacles. And she's like, for some reason, I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones, but this is what she kind of reminds me of, Cersei Lannister, just hiding behind the giant. And I do feel like this goes back to the other stuff, because it's like that's been how you've been getting your bread, is you're doing all these things that you don't necessarily enjoy, you're not always passionate about, but where your money's coming from is from the giant, from And even here, the skulls in this case are pentacles. So he's holding up a pentacle, even almost in this, in the Eight of Skulls, that's what he's holding up. So that's like the motivation for the way that you've been living. And I guess now that we've come through this cycle and you've got this new way of thinking, you're looking at this again, how do I get my money? You're examining that process. And there's some sort of deception ongoing in your process. But again, this is what's motivating you. This is how you get your money. And that's where we come to the Death card. And the Death card is not a literal death, but more of a figurative one. It is speaking to the end of an old way of doing things, an old way of thinking, an old pattern. So what it looks like is you're not going to be able to keep getting your money the way that you were. Either it's not profitable, it's not sustainable, mentally, physically, emotionally. There's a toll. I don't know why this has been coming up a lot for me. Pay the toll troll. Yeah, pay the toll troll. I think that's right. You can't keep running this game forever. And then we've got the Prince of Scepters coming up here, which is a young energy. Again, it's like you've been going through these iterations of ways of thinking. And this was kind of a new one for you, and you ran that for a little while, but this cycle is ending, and now you've got to find a new way. And you are... I don't know how you feel about that. I'm going to go ahead and clarify the Seven of Cups, the Seven of Grails, and the Prince of Scepters. That's the last one that we're looking at, because with the Prince of Scepters, I feel like he's like looking back over his shoulder. He's looking back at the past, but he's running away. Like he's running away from the past, but he's kind of looking back at it. He's like, man, those were the good days. That was good. I really liked it when it was like that, but it's not about to be like that for a while. Ooh. So I got the Two of Scepters that came up, and this is going on the Prince of Scepters. And you can see in the background there's a tower there. He's fighting away from the tower, but the tower is on high ground, and the city's burning. The city's burning over here, and he's got his back to the tower, so it's like he can retreat going up towards the tower. So it's like the harder you fight this, the harder it's going to be. At this point, if you surrender, you know the city's burning, but you can fight your way back up to the tower, and the tower will collapse. Or you can surrender and accept the change. I pulled your next card for the Seven of Grails, and that came out as the Empress, which is a creative, strong, feminine energy that is well balanced, and that's coming up over the Seven of Grails. So where there's some deception, it's like my cards are sticky. This one's I don't know, this one's being weird. It feels weird. It's not saying that I need to put it here. It's almost like it doesn't want to go. Let me clarify this again. I know I said I don't usually do this, but this is weird. The way the card feels in my hand. So it's interesting because the Seven of Grails, I was talking about some deception there, and then the Empress being a strong feminine energy, they seem pretty contradictory. Whew, that is a whole big story that we're not going to get into right now. That was a whole chunk of cards, y'all. So I got two that jumped out, and then after this I'm done. So the Four of Knives, and there's a stone and a real person. Four of Knives. And this is Libra energy. So it's talking about balance here, and the Daughter of Cups. So emotion. So I guess it's talking, okay, this makes sense. So the Empress is coming up here because it's saying that some deception is necessary. Like you have your light and your dark. So that's not a bad thing. Get in touch with your emotions and come into your full feminine power. That doesn't mean you don't have to lay all of your cards on the table. You don't have to let everyone see where you are, but you need to know where you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And if you're living out this pattern and you're kind of lying to yourself, if the person you're deceiving is yourself, then you're in trouble. So don't think that you can fight this change this whole time, like that you're kind of going through iterations of this, and it's like you're growing over this process. You've been doing a lot of growing, so kudos to you. But don't deceive yourself and delude yourself into thinking that you can fight this change, that you can go back to how it was before, because that's not for you. Okay? You can go back and you can back your way into the tower, and that will crumble, or you can accept it and surrender. Surrender to change. Stop fighting it, Cancer. It is upon you. And it's okay, and it's a good thing. You'll be better for it. I hope this was helpful, and much love to you.